Hello, hi, gorgeous. Welcome in. For those of you who are new, I'm Eileen Nazario, and I personally love to talk about growth. More particularly, I like to talk about growth in the space of careers with a tilt to leaning towards the areas of spirituality and adding more femininity to life, career, and the way we decide to make a living. So that's the perspective that I personally love to come to when I'm thinking about my career personally, and that started after my first job at college. So that's the story I want to tell today. So I decided after that very first job that I wanted to follow a different path. And it wasn't the logical path, right? I studied marketing in college, got a marketing degree, and after that, got a marketing job. That makes a lot of sense, right? But that's the logical path, but it wasn't the path that my heart wanted to go down. So that's the story I want to share with you guys today. Let me know if you can hear me and see me. And let me just do that. Okay. Let's just move this over a little bit. So yes, welcome in. Welcome in. And as some of you know, this is part of a larger series where I will be sharing my career story with you. And it's a story that is near and dear to my heart. It has been the story of my 20s. I've literally dedicated a lot of my time, energy, and life force energy in general to my career. And of course, life is changing and things are shifting for me, but this is a story that has meant a lot for the past decade of my life. So I want to give those of you who are currently in that space of your life the potential mindsets, perspectives, tools that have helped me get to a career that I personally found invigorating, exciting, and adventure. I know I have several people reach out to me over the years asking for my thoughts on like transitioning careers, getting specific jobs within the tech industry, and all of that. So I'm here to share my knowledge and share my thoughts with you guys by telling my story. So let's jump right into it. Feel free to drop in any questions as we go along, and I am more than happy to chat through them live here today. So let's start from the where I was at that point. So I had the last video I shared with you guys. Spoke about how I got my first job out of college, which was as an APMM, Associate Product Marketing Manager at Google. And I share that story in the last live video. So this story I want to share about why I left, right? So let's start by me telling you a little bit about what I was doing within that job. Essentially, it was a rotational program and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful program. For anyone that's in marketing, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. There were two rotations. My first rotation, I was in the branding space. And what we were doing was specifically telling stories that would help um, improve Google's brand. So, of course, there was research behind that helped us understand how people perceive the Google brand. And then, of course, there was a strategy behind how we would increase that the positive perspectives that people have of the brand. So, not to dig into the details here, just to share that the search on stories, which are publicly available on YouTube currently, were the stories that I helped craft the marketing for. And essentially, what they were stories of people who have done incredible things, not things with Google technology. And it was anything from the Android Studio to I don't remember at this point, Google Meets, TensorFlow, some of these Google products. And what I particularly loved about it is that there was a lot of heart and soul in these stories. But in addition to that, there was also inspiration to be found there, because a lot of these stories were of people who used this technology in a very interesting way. A lot of them were engineers, so they were doing really cool things with code in order to solve major world problems. And I'm more than happy to share a separate story about that work that we did there. But it's not my place to tell that story. I'm not Google. But I'm more than happy to share my perspective of how I was involved. At the same time, while we were creating these stories and I was inspired by these engineers, I was also feeling like I wasn't a super great fit for marketing in the marketing world. And I looked at the rubric, for example, of what it means to be a marketer at the company and what the next stage of being promoted in the company would look like and what skill sets were necessary in order to do that. I started feeling like it's not the perfect fit for me. Like there was a lot of influencing others and leadership and all of these things that, of course, I gained the skill set for in college while I was part of multiple organizations. But if I thought about how I felt doing that, I didn't feel like I was in the place. I didn't feel like that was the skill set I wanted to grow necessarily. What I did enjoy while I was at the job was some of the more technical aspects of it. So, homepage promotions, any marketing that you see on the Google homepage, for example, required not necessarily a lot of technical work, but just a small bit of technical work with like the URLs and UTM codes. So, a lot of the marketers at in the organization that I was a part of didn't really enjoy doing that work, but I loved it. I loved it a lot. So I became a little bit of a go-to person for that. Um, whoops. Okay, don't want to show you guys the whole room now. So that was a clue in for me to say, okay, there's something here. I'm not enjoying the more marketing aspects of my job, but I am enjoying the technical aspect of my job. And then I also, this is a little bit more controversial, but I also started looking at the leaders of the organization, like the managers, the directors, and I started to ask myself, if the expectation of a career is that you will evolve and grow within that career, within that field, is the outlook of where I'm evolving to and growing to, is that an exciting direction for me to take in my life? And the truth of the matter was that honestly, no, I was not excited about that path. I was not excited about taking that route. Um, so it was a little bit of multiple things, right? Like I was doing phenomenal work. I was getting exposed to these new fields such as engineering, and my interest was being piqued there. And then I was also looking at the work that I was currently doing, and my interest was being drawn away from that. So I was left needing to make a decision. Like, if this isn't where I'm supposed to be, then where am I meant to be? And I had to really dig deep and do some thinking around that. If I am not feeling 100% fully dedicated to the job that I'm doing right now at this very moment, then something is up. Especially for someone like me who considers herself to be very heart led, and I need to feel excited about the things that I'm doing in order to put the energy into it, because I view myself as a person who uses her intuition a lot, someone who uses her gut a lot. But I also consider to myself to be a very high growth oriented person. So it's like, if the high growth desire is there, the desire for me to do work and do great work is there, but I'm not excited about the work that I'm doing. My intuition is not in it, my heart is not in it, then there's some misalignment there. And that misalignment led me to start asking the question, well, what else is out there? So, as I mentioned, the stories that we were telling involved a lot of engineers. So, of course, I started looking into the engineering field. And if I think about it as well, I was in college. I believe it was maybe my last semester, I started thinking about code. Um, so I remembered, like, wait, in college, I had an interest in code. I just never pursued that path because it was my last semester in college. And quite frankly, I was burnt out by that point. I did a lot. And there was a lot happening in terms of like my multiple involvements in organizations on campus, my classes, organizations outside of campus, my internships, all of the interpersonal relationships that go into being a college student. It was a lot. So I was burnt out by that last semester, and therefore I did not pursue that interest in code at that point. But looking back at that, when once I did have that job, and I was like, what else do I want to do? Well, code, of course, popped into my mind. And as I mentioned, those stories really did a number on me in order to help me see like, wow, there's a lot that can be done with this. So engineering, of course, became that go-to path that I was interested in. Did I have any idea how it would come to be? Absolutely not. I had no idea. I mean, at this point, engineering was just a term, a field that was completely nebulous to me. It was just like, what does that even mean? What even goes on behind the scenes within an engineering team? What goes on behind the scenes of building a product? So I started speaking to people. I've spoke to people first very broadly, like people who have switched careers in general out of marketing. And I had wonderful mentors within the company that helped me connect with people who have done career switches. So I've spoke to people who switched careers from marketing to product management. I spoke to people who switched careers from marketing to engineering. And both of those avenues really helped me decide that I don't want to necessarily go down the product marketing path. I mean, the product management path, because it would include or require very similar, not the same, but similar skills to marketing, those skills that I wasn't necessarily interested in growing. And at the very same time, I already had this interest in engineering that I thought, I that itch is there and I need to scratch that itch in order for me to feel fulfilled. And therefore, I decided, no, I won't go the product management path. I'm going to actually pursue the engineering path. So, whoops, do a little bit more of a turn here. Um, so I decided to pursue the engineering path. Spoke to more people who had done other transitions. People have brought up going to graduate school. People have brought up um, coding boot camps, and I started really like digging deep. 20 years from now, I want to have the ability to build things. I want to have the ability to not only sell and market something. I want to have the ability to actually create it. I don't want to have to 100% completely depend on someone else's knowledge about engineering in order to create something. And it was a desire of mine to have at least the knowledge. The ability, yes, but at least the knowledge of what it takes. Because even if I end up working with someone else that's in the engineering space and they are building something, I want to at least have knowledge so that I can ask appropriate questions. And so that's how that started. I also thought about, the world is continuing to evolve, and as the world continues to move towards the path of, technology being, of course, as it always has been, the cutting edge of society, I want to be at the forefront of what's happening, or at least have the understanding, because one thing that I cannot stand is not knowing how something works. I remember when I was a younger kid and my sister and I used to watch TV together, there was a show called how things were made or something like that. I believe they would talk about how candies were made or different toys. I don't remember exactly, but it was very interesting for me to understand how things were made. And of course, I'm in the tech field. I'm here in the Bay Area at that point in time around all of these software products, and I have zero clue how any of it is made. So 20 years from now, I knew I wanted to know that. So moving forward, I made the decision, yes, engineering is the path I want to go down. If I'm not happy, then I need to do something about it. So I started researching, and I did some more research beyond talking to a couple of people and seeing how they switched careers. I started going out to various events, and in those events, there were people who were in the engineering space or were seeking to enter the engineering space. I also decided to take online classes so that I can learn about coding and try it out for myself before I made any sudden moves. So I started taking a JavaScript class, started really just learning the very, very, very basics, for loops, if else statements, general syntax. And for those of you who are in the engineering space, you know what I'm talking about, like the super, super, super basics. um, and that really helped me get a feel for if this was something I was going to enjoy. Because yes, you can build something, but do you enjoy the building blocks? Like if I'm going to build a Lego house, but I hate Legos, what am I doing building a Lego house if I don't even like Legos? I don't know. That's my perspective of how I like to view the way I make decisions in life. So the very, very, very basics, I enjoyed it. I pretty much started figuring out what the path would be to do so, what the path would be to transition. And so I started creating an action plan. I decided to invest in myself essentially. I saw that there were coding boot camps and things like that. So I made a plan. And once I decided to invest in myself and make that plan, everything became so much clearer. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of anxiety in my stomach. There was a lot of anxiousness in my mind because I just wasn't sure of what the path would look like. And of course, me of today looking back, talking to Eileen of 4 years ago, I would have a lot more information to share with her about how to not feel stressed about these kinds of decisions, how to not feel anxious about making these kinds of transitions, especially like this is my first job out of college. And at that point, I'm a little girl from in my mind, just super fresh to the corporate world and had no idea what I was doing. Was I really going to leave the safety that I built into that first job, because I felt like there was a lot of safety, and especially being at the company that I was at where there were a ton of benefits, not only financial benefits, there was um, a lot of information that I received about the tech world just being within the company. And so it was a tough decision. It wasn't like it was super easy. It was one that was riddled with anxiety. Um, so I feel a lot of compassion for that Eileen of 4 years ago or so, because it's like now I can look back and say there was a way to not feel as anxious about it. But anyways, I decided to create an action plan and decided to go all in rather than staying in the safety of a company by taking a leave of absence. For example, that could have been a path that I decided to do. Instead of actually quitting, I could have taken a leave of absence so that I can go pursue these interests and still be able to come back to the company very easily because I'm still essentially employed by the company. But I knew that if I went that route, I would pull out. I will pull back and not fully commit myself to this plan of switching careers essentially. So I decided burn the ships. I think that's one of my mentors told me, and that's how he described it. Like you burn the ships, you can't go back now, right? Like you're stuck on this island until you build a new ship. So that's exactly what I did. Made sure that I was in a really good financial state in order to make it happen. And once that was all set into motion, I was ready to go. So I ended up telling my manager and those who were in the management chain above me, hey, this is my plan. I'm going to make this switch happen. And March 8th, 2019 was my very last day at the company. This is a little too bright. Maybe we can turn it down a few notches. Down, down, down. Okay, that's better. Um, so yeah, March 8th, 2019 was my very last day at the company. And after that, I was free for a month before I continued down the path. And yeah, having that freedom for a month felt amazing. Amazing. I don't even remember what I did with that time. Honestly, I probably just rested, spent time with family, spent time with friends, but it was like giving myself a little break before I decided to fully invest my time and energy into this next path. So that is my story for you for today. I want to continue to share this story. This is part two of who knows how many there is to come, but over the next couple of weeks, I will continue to tell this story. And yeah, so some people have reached out since the last story asking for advice and things like that. I specifically love working with hard-working, heart-centered women, and I want to work with women who are feeling lost, scattered, unsure, unclear in their job search. Specifically those who are either in the tech industry or want to work in the tech industry. They're feeling lost, scattered, unclear, unsure, don't know where to go, how to get there. I want to be able to help them get to a place where they have a crystal clear vision of where they're headed and a ton of confidence in order to make it happen, in order to get the jobs that they are truly excited about. And they're able to follow their heart, follow their North Star in order to get to that, to scratch those itches. So yes, if you are a person who resonates with that, then feel free to send me a DM if you're watching this here on LinkedIn, or check out the description box if you are watching this on YouTube. So I will continue this story by telling you guys how I actually made the career switch from marketing to engineering next week. So stay tuned for that. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.